Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Relic's very first live broadcast on LinkedIn. Our topic today is driving the mobility revolution, riding the cloud and observability. My name is Ines España. I'm Senior Customer Marketing Manager at New Relic, and I'm joined today by Eric Pack Mikkelsen, Head of Cloud Operations at ShareNow. Hi, Eric. And
Hello.
Greg Bouillon, Field CTO at New Relic. So before we begin, some quick housekeeping guidelines. On the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see a live feed. Feel free to ask questions throughout the session, and Heiko Speck, our Global Account Executive, will answer in real time. Eric and Greg's presentation will go for around 25 to 30 minutes, and then we'll leave 10 minutes for a live Q&A. So without further ado, I give you Greg Bouillon.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you all today and also with Eric. The talk today is about mobility in the sense of making people mobile and about cloud and about observability. I very much relate to these topics because most of my career was in aviation, so making people mobile. I also have two sons in their late 20s and their early 30s who would not think of owning a car as something that is important. And what they want is to be able to consume services, they want access, they want choice, and guess what? They want it fast. So I'm very pleased to have Eric today because he's got a very clear view on this fast-growing market, which is mobility as a service. And also when we met for the first time with Eric, I saw that he's a guy with opinions about how to do things. And a lot of the opinions we shared, we were very much aligned. So I hope you will like his insights. And I'm going to hand over to Eric for a short introduction about ShareNow, and then we will go into the conversation. Eric, over to you.
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Ines. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for letting ShareNow participate in this presentation. So I will give you 4 pieces of information, 3 pieces of information about ShareNow and what we are doing, and then 1 bonus information. And you will have the bonus information first. Today we are on the birthday of Paul McCartney, so although he says all you need is love, you will get some more than that. And this I will give you right now. So the first is a general introduction to ShareNow. We came to the world 10 years ago when our shareholder, Daimler, started to investigate into the future of mobility. And this is a world where we see a larger population living in urbanized areas and less people are purchasing vehicles. Young people even start not to do driver's license, or at least as early do driver's license as they used to. So the shareholders, Daimler and BMW, last year came together and formed a new company called ShareNow, where they put their car sharing activities into one company, into one project. And this is what I'm going to present for you right now. So over these years, we have acquired millions of customers. We have developed the service from a very rudimentary service where you can rent a vehicle sitting directly in the street with your smartphone. With an app, you can search for a vehicle, you can unlock the vehicle, you can start a rental, and you can park the vehicle again. So as Greg mentioned, this is mobility as a service. You can rent a vehicle, you can consume the vehicle directly with your smartphone. And we are now today operating 20,000 vehicles in most capital cities of Europe and some of the second and third large cities in the major European countries as well. We are the largest operator of electric vehicles, and we are operating a fleet of compact vehicles from our shareholders, BMW and Daimler. It includes the Smart, the Mini, the Mercedes-Benz, and the BMW cars, so the series of compact vehicles in their production lineups. So with this, we can go to the second sheet. And I will briefly tell you about some of the effects that we are seeing and observing from car sharing. So living in urbanized areas, you have a multitude of transportation options available. It includes public transport, individual transport, and car sharing is a service being offered where you can still have individual transport, but without the hassle of owning and administrating a car. All this is taken care of by a sharing company. We purchase the vehicle for you, we maintain the vehicle, we fuel the vehicle, we pay the parking fees. The only thing you as a customer have to concentrate about is your ride from A to B, and you can park the car everywhere. So we see that we can reduce the footprint, the number of vehicles in the cities, as it's a shared resource. This means more drivers will be able to use the same vehicle and still have the full flexibility. So with this, we also improve the environmental load from vehicles, both in terms of noise and of pollution. This, of course, comes from the higher efficiency of the car, and we also reduce simply the manufacturing costs and complexity of having less vehicles. So it's not car sharing is not to be considered a replacement of any of the other transport modes. You will still probably have your bicycle, or be using a taxi cab, or using a limousine service, or the subway, depending on where you are living. But you have this additional transportation available without having to own a car, and we help thereby cities to reduce their environmental footprint. These are the main advantages of car sharing. So with this, I can continue on to the third information slide. And here you see the main topics of a car sharing. And this is where you start as a customer to see the real benefits. Instead of having to purchase a car, finance a car, you can still consume a car with all its individual advantages. You can still travel at any time. You don't have to involve any other parties for the rental, only you and your smartphone. With this, you can still use the vehicle fully freely. And of course, we also offer electric vehicles. Some of the cities we are offering only electric vehicles, like in Madrid. Our fleet consists of purely electric vehicles. And in urbanized areas, this is also a challenge, because you don't have enough charging opportunities to charge all electric vehicles. But this we also take care of, as we have our own charging spots. You can still, of course, also use the public charging opportunities, but we offer to recharge the vehicles for you. So there you have the maximum environmental relief you can have in a city. We have off-site charging stations, and you have zero pollution vehicles driving in the city, shared among several customers, so you can reduce the need for parking spaces and reduce the environmental footprint in general. So this is free-floating car sharing, and this is the business of Share Now. So thank you for listening to the introduction.
Thank you, Eric. That is really interesting, and I think we all can guess why very large car manufacturers would go into that new space somehow to self-cannibalize themselves. But there's obviously a big IT story behind all of this. So maybe I will start with my first question to you, which is, when we talk about digital transformation in large enterprises, we see different models. And the model that Daimler has decided was to go for a subsidiary. So what were the underpinning key strategic decisions there? And was it an easy decision to spin off to go for mobility?
No, I think this was not an easy decision, considering that the big OEM car manufacturers are very old and very mature businesses. Daimler being the oldest manufacturer in the world, BMW also more than 100 years old. This is definitely not an easy decision to deviate from your classical business model, inventing, designing, manufacturing vehicles and selling vehicles to your customer. To go into another business model where you offer various services instead of offering a product, the vehicle, this has definitely not, it was not an easy decision. And considering this risk, this was also the reason why why this project was put into a subsidiary, into a separate legal unit. Then the service could be developed, could be offered, could be tested, and could be extended into several cities and countries. And this is what we have experienced very successfully over the last decade. So even without knowing it, we were the inventors of an IoT service, an Internet of Things, our thing being the car. Even long before this buzzword existed, we developed a service because we believed in the amalgamation of the vehicle and the computer. And the glue between these two elements, that's the internet. It's the smartphone with which you can operate, you can pay, you can register, you can communicate with the vehicles, with our backend systems. And this is a fascinating world, and that's exactly the main interest of mine. It's the vehicle, it's the car, it's the automotive and its history, and it's the computer technology, the electronics, the data behind it. These two worlds melting together, this is a new opportunity for the automotive industry. And
great.
Yeah, please.
So, and I can see now that a lot of these early mobility as a service solutions are coming back into the design of the car itself. So it's really impressive how it's penetrated the new car.
Yes.
So behind that, then there comes the second big decision. You told me well, we decided to go for no IT on-prem, all cloud, all SaaS. That's again a big decision. So how did you go about this one?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Greg. So when we started the car sharing business, we also had to consider what kind of technologies do we need to be successful in this business. And although we started out as a research and development project with our shareholders, Daimler and BMW, it soon became clear that the classical automotive industry, with its huge manufacturing plants, logistics, and worldwide after-sales activities, this does not really fit to an online business, where your main contact with the customer is through an app, and you have online services. We basically never meet our customers face to face. So this is a completely different world, and it also became clear that the large enterprise IT systems that our shareholders were offering was not always a good fit for a web-based online IoT sort of business. So it became clear after growing our business for some years that we had to do a true paradigm shift. And we decided to move our complete business to the cloud, everything. So today we don't own a server, we don't have a router, we don't have a switch, we don't have a storage system, we don't have any piece of hardware except the hardware in our assets in the vehicles. So, and this was the right decision. With this, we were able to scale our business we were able to attract all the services as building blocks, New Relic being one of them, and we can easily plug them together and form a complete service being offered to our customers with all the individual services we need to either operate, maintain, do payments, do registrations, and do monitoring, surveillance, all the elements that you need to run a business, we build by using cloud services.
That's a bold move, but obviously it seems to be working pretty well. And when we met, you suggested that one of the big constructs about going cloud was the ability to scale. And obviously, initially in your mind, scaling up because you want to grow and open more cities, but also eventually scaling down. So how effective has it been for you, this ability to scale? Is it the reality?
The scalability, I think, is very important. First of all, when we started our business, there was no such thing as free-floating car sharing. So in the beginning, you have simply to conquer markets. You have to acquire customers. Here, your scalability upwards becomes important in the first glance. And having scaled now to millions of customers, we have demonstrated that we were able to do so. And there were years where we opened 5, 6, 7 cities per year. We have also closed cities for many different reasons, political reasons. Some cities are not very well suited for car sharing due to different jurisdictions, etc. So having the full scalability is very important for an online business. And of course, the recent example we have seen where the global pandemic suddenly makes your business have to reduce with 50, 60, 80, 90%, depending on your business. Scalability becomes very important. And luckily, we were in a situation with our fully cloud-based infrastructure that we could just close our MacBooks and we could go to our home office and open the MacBooks again, and our business continued. And this is a clear example of scalability and flexibility. It becomes more and more important. And when we designed our infrastructure, not one single of us had a global pandemic in mind, but it shows that when you choose the most scalable and the most flexible tools, then you're also able to manage such challenges.
Yeah, so somehow you designed your business continuity plan with your scalability plan.
It actually came as a present on top. This was not something that we designed actively. Of course, you consider it professionally, but we were actually looking for other parameters as the driving forces. We wanted to have the best data analysis. We wanted to have the most flexible infrastructure. We wanted to have no hardware which locked us to a specific physical location. We wanted to be able to deploy our vehicles in any city of the world. So we were really looking for flexibility, scalability, and availability as the first parameters.
Okay. Now that's really interesting. Shifting gears a bit. So you go all cloud, and then there's come this story about DevOps, right? And you told me very nice things about the fact that very early on, you said, well, I'm the head of operations, I'm the head of cloud operations, but we need to change the paradigm and we need to empower the developers and we need to build very replicable processes that makes it fully automated.
Yes.
Which I think is great. So could you tell us about that story, about how you look at your role and how you empower the developers?
Yes. So this is my daily role. So I call myself head of cloud operations, and this means we do not do application development, but we do a lot of development in the basic infrastructure. So enabling our developers to do front-end app development, web development, telematics, for vehicle communication, or the in-car software. This is our main responsibility and main goal. And very early on, and now we are talking 6-7 years ago, it became clear to us that we could not continue by using a traditional enterprise platform when our developers were working with agile models, with Kanban and Scrum principles and sprints of 1 week and 2 weeks, and we would have an infrastructure which would have planning horizons of maybe a quarter or half a year. So we very soon also adapted a model of DevOps in the infrastructure, in the operations. So the mantra, the motto of our team became that the software, the infrastructure as code, we should have our fully infrastructure defined as code. We started out with configuration management tools like Puppet, Ansible, and Chef, but even this we have moved to another level and have our full infrastructure purely defined as code. So now we can do repository requests from GitLab, just like our developers are doing for the application software. And we can deploy at the same speed as our developers. And I think we are at least at a deployment rate of minutes, if not faster.
That is fantastic. And I remember telling to my teams, no script that is not in a Git. So
exactly.
I love to hear this.
Yes. Nothing. You should never do configurations locally on devices, on objects. It should be in the repository, and you do pull requests to do the deployments. This is our philosophy, and it's a very strong philosophy. But the requirement is that you have an infrastructure which can accept these deployments. If you are stuck with classical infrastructure and hardware which you need to manage, then you cannot make use of these methodologies, or at least it becomes more difficult for you, and you are not as fast as your competitors. And this was, as I mentioned in the beginning, this is what is critical for us. It is to be as fast as possible to introduce our service in any location at any time and being available permanently.
Thank you for this. And so let's shifting gears again. So you've got now all this cloud, you've got cars at the end of the value chain, you've got consumers on the other side of the chain with mobile, you've got tons of services and VMs and containers and stuff. And at one stage, you realize that you've grown a lot and that you are starting to lose control of it. Yes. And this is where you say, maybe we need to move to observability, and where you changed the way you looked at instrumenting and monitoring your environment.
Yeah.
And there becomes the New Relic story. So would you mind telling us what was the signal for you that you needed to change something, and where did you go?
Yeah, sure. So when we grew our business, we started out from hundreds of vehicles. The vehicles grew into the number of thousands and later to tens of thousands. Our number of customers grew from thousands to hundreds of thousands into the millions. And also all the other business parameters, they tend to grow in the same rate. The number of refueling, the number of insurance documents, the number of parking tickets, the number of vehicle getting a damage, the number of rentals, the number of customer requests, the number of calls, everything just grow multitudes, orders of magnitudes. And suddenly, I think it was especially when we hit the number of 1 million customers. 1 million sort of, for me, is a number where then you can no longer comprehend the individual component or customers. Then you will have to have tools to support you to do whatever you have to do. And this is became apparent that we had so many infrastructure resources that you have to monitor, and you can no longer do an event-based monitors because you have so many events that you can no longer handle this. So you need to have a tool to handle your events. And this is also where New Relic came into our business, together with other analytical tools. And it is to save all the data or to generate knowledge and decision making out of the data. You need to have the ability to analyze, to log the data and to analyze them and to evaluate them. And when you have 1 million customers and you're generating 1 rental per second, you cannot even finish considering 1 rental before the next 10 rentals are going on. You're simply losing the overview of your business. And in order to stay in a business where we have fast-moving objects and we have fast-moving customers, then you need the tools also to be fast-moving. And fast-moving here does not mean the ability to do a weekly report or a monthly report. No, this is real time. You need to be able in real time to analyze this. And when you have 1 million of an element, no matter what of your business, then my opinion is then you need to have analytical, statistical, mathematical tools to analyze these data.
Yes, I recall selling those Wi-Fi sessions on board aircraft, and as you mentioned, this all happens in real time, and you can disappoint or please your customers in real time.
Yeah.
So real time is very meaningful, and what also you indicated is that you're not just looking at infrastructure and software and middleware, but you really moved into looking at how your business is operating.
Yeah, you're right, Greg. So we started out of doing analysis of the infrastructure. This is our profession. This is our business. This is our responsibility. But we very soon realized that it's actually much better to do the customer perspective, to see it from the customer instead of having a view on your networking or storage or server or your basic applications. It's much better to do the customer perspective and see, is the rental going on? Are the number of rentals going up or going down? Are the number of vehicles in rental at the moment corresponding to what you expect? And then analyze this business process. And then from this derive if you have a normal operating business. And do the correlation with all the other events going on. And this was where we saw, we can much better extend our data analysis to comprehend and to analyze all the business processes, from customer registration, from payment, from vehicle rentals, from refuelings, from parking, all the important features of operating a large fleet of vehicles. And for this, we used New Relic, and it became clear to us that this is one of the most important tools we have when we analyze different impacts on our business, be it either an anomaly or it can be disturbances in the GSM network and we lose connectivity to vehicles, or customers start to act in another way because an event is going on in a city, or roads are being blocked for parking, or customer registration is going up or going down, or we are doing marketing campaigns. This is very easy when you have the data available and you collect these data and you analyze it with New Relic. Then I just go to the dashboard and I have this overview right away, immediately, in real time. And I can do decisions, and I never do wrong decisions because it's based on statistics. If we go back like 3 or 5 years and we didn't have these capabilities, then the decisions were based on experience. This is something managers, they like to believe that they have experience, but in reality, it's only 10% experience and 90% luck. And now we have the opposite situation, that you are basing it on 90% facts and 10% luck. So this is a really strong tool, and I would recommend all businesses having a large amount of data or large amounts of business elements, be it assets or rentals or whatever your business might be, then make sure that you have a data analysis tool.
Eric, thank you very much. I think that really brings it together. What you say is that you started from building an infrastructure that's flexible and scalable, then to make it available to the team so that they are empowered to deploy fast and therefore innovate fast. And then you realized you had a real-time business at scale and that you needed to really connect the dots between the business and so that's a really great story, Eric. I would like to thank you very much for this. And I think we're going to revert back to Ines and see if we got some questions from the audience, because I'm sure they would like to hear you also on other questions. So let's see.
We've got one question for Eric. So,
yes,
Eric, that was a massive DevOps transformation. Could you discuss a little bit the skills and culture-related challenges that you encountered in that journey and how you addressed those challenges?
Yes. So I think if you plan such a transition, no matter what company, size or business or trade you are in, doing this transition in an IT department is a challenge, because you will have to do the transition from classical skills. Typically, you will have a database team, you will have a networking team, you will have a server team, you will have a storage team. And you have to dissolve this classical team structure and make it into generic development resources where you can develop on the infrastructure. And this was one experience we made, that instead of spending our time on administrating the infrastructure, the hardware, the firmware, the storage and the server infrastructure, then we purchased this from a cloud provider. And this released capacity inside our organization, where we could then focus on the next layer. And this is what you would typically call the DevOps structure, where you then program, you instrumentalize your infrastructure, and you orchestrate the infrastructure and make the services available to the development teams. This was how we designed and structured our teams. So we have a DevOps team who are now building the infrastructure services, and the development teams building the applications, our business applications. They can consume these services right away and integrate them into their applications. New Relic is also an example for this. The DevOps team, they prepare the analysis platform and they make it available to all the development teams, and they can plug it into their data stream. So this transformation is a very important and basic transformation, but I can recommend all companies to do so. You will gain both speed, quality, agility, decision power, and in general, you will just be faster. And this is not 20% faster. We are talking about like a factor 1,000 or 10,000 times faster. You are going from development cycles of 1 month down to minutes.
Right. Sounds like a very empowering journey for developers. So let's look at the other question, which is slightly related to this. So you have an observability strategy in place that affects not just your technology, but also the business.
Yes.
What impact did this have on your teams and how they understand their own roles?
I think this is precisely the empowerment you mentioned. When you when you give this transparency, which typically earlier on was only available in monthly reports to the board, now the information is available inside the company to everybody, and you can do professional decisions based on true facts and figures. And when you have this available, you do much faster and much better decisions. So imagine you are a developer in the vehicle infrastructure or in the vehicle telematics. When you have knowledge about the vehicle communication and the number of transactions and the messages going back and forth, and you can see what is good, what is bad, then you can do a deployment to improve and continue to improve, instead of having to wait for the next release 7.5, which will be out in September, and then you have a change log and you will implement these 10 changes. No, you can do it independently. And because the infrastructure accepts these rapid deployments, then you will do it successfully every time. You can have a test environment and test your changes, but even this will be faster. So empowering the developers with analytical tools, this is probably a mandatory prerequisite in order to be successful.
Absolutely. And I'd love to talk to a developer. It sounds like a very inspiring journey. So I have a last question for both of you. You're obviously two very experienced leaders in digital transformation. If you had to make one recommendation to someone at a different company responsible for a transformation project, what would that be in like one phrase or two phrases? Eric, you want to go first?
Yes, please. I think that's a very good question, Ines. So thank you for asking that. I think I would state it in two answers or in two statements. One, make sure that you save and record and have all your data, your process data, your business data available, and make sure that you're able to analyze these data. Make also sure that in your boards that you have IT skills and knowledge about IT tools and processes.
Excellent, thank you. How about you, Greg?
Well, the more I meet with customers, great people like Eric, the more I realize that you do not drive a Formula One without a powerful real-time dashboard. So my recommendation is really instrument your project, measure, set baselines and set objectives. And then from there, you can measure, you can iterate, and you can improve. But giving access to the real-time data to people is just a game changer to be successful in this iteration.
Fantastic. So we've come to the end of the broadcast. I'd like to thank you, gentlemen, for this very interesting conversation. I'm sure it's very inspiring for the audience. And for the people listening in, if you wish to learn more about the New Relic technology or have very specific questions, or you want to discuss topics that haven't been addressed in this session, please click on the link above the live feed and request a demo. So until next one, and stay safe, everyone. Goodbye.
And thank you very much.